Hey, we're Blenderstyle, and you don't have to beg anymore because it's here. Our review of Dying Fetus, Make Them Beg for Death, released in 2023.
Were they begging us?
Cheers, gentlemen.
Death.
Cheers.
They were begging. They're like, please. I've always been a Dying Fetus fan since the late 90s. I think Destroy the Opposition really got me into the band big time, and I've been into it ever since. And this is their 9th album, Make Them Beg for Death, released in 2023. Casey, I know you listened to this because I made you listen to Dying Fetus the whole time.
Yeah, so you forced me to listen to Dying Fetus throughout the years numerous times. They're very consistent, I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely.
Back when we were younger, I wasn't a big fan of them, but I think it was always that vocal style that turned me off to them. A lot of the stuff you made me listen to when we were kids, when you would hold me down and Chinese torture me and force that crap upon me.
You're welcome.
Hey, Nathan, what about you?
I've known about Dying Fetus for many years. I've always been a fan of theirs. Like, I like that they kind of mix, like, early years, like, grindcore, hardcore, death metal, slam. Like, they kind of, like
the
mix it all.
breakdowns
Yeah,
and stuff.
It was really tight when I first heard of them. Yeah, I've been a fan of Dying Fetus.
So that's their sound, right? It's, like, kind of like brutal death metal, I think is what I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's, like, lots of breakdowns and, like, chuggy parts and even solos, like a surprising amount of solos, but they don't sound like typical solos. They just kind of come out of nowhere. And
there's no setup.
It's like death metal you can dance to. If that
So I'll just say
this is something to dance
the
to.
thing that I always loved about Dying Fetus is their song arrangements, because they don't really repeat themselves ever, which is weird because most bands have hooks that they kind of go back to. They literally do not do that. And but they meander in such a way that it always flows, and then it hooks. Like the hooks are the catchy points in all the songs. You're like, wait, like here's what every time I listen to Dying Fetus, I'm like, all right, at the 2-minute mark,
there's gonna be a hook.
There's gonna be a part that's like breakdown or some part that's fucking sick.
Yeah, and
that's like always been their kind of shtick. And I love it, dude, because most bands are doing verse chorus, which is fine most of the time. But Dying Fetus just has and it's groovy, so it all connects. Bro, love this band.
Oh yeah, nothing but respect for Dying Fetus. I mean, even the wrong one to fuck with, right? Before this, I thought it had some decent.
They don't put out bad albums.
Yeah,
and this is definitely not bad. Like production wise, this might be one of their best ones. But I'll tell you what. I don't think this is probably Dying Fetus's best album, but as far as like drum performance, it's the best. Trey Williams.
The drums on this were killer.
Trey Williams is a monster on this, dude.
He was like the longest drummer, pretty much, probably for him, right?
Yeah, I think in the early days they had Kevin Talley for a while, and then they just went through a lot of lineup changes for a bit.
Even what's the guitar player? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
John Gallagher.
He played drums and was a singer, and then
I love that shit about it.
He's the only original remaining member of the band.
Yeah, and then Sean Beasley came in like the early 2000s, and then a couple drummers, and then they kind of solidified as a trio. So there's 3 of them. I've seen Dying Fetus live as a trio. Fuck, dude.
See, I've never seen them live. I wish, man.
Dude, they're such a big band for only having 3 members.
They only have 3? I'd say I didn't know
That's a flex, dude.
That is a flex.
To be this heavy death metal and play live with only no tracks.
And they both do vocals.
But
also to be this, So one of my big complaints about like bands that only have one guitar player and play solos and stuff is when they go to the solos, it's annoying because you just get that bass chug with the drums and then a solo going and you miss all that rhythm. I don't notice that about this. I thought there were 2 guitar players.
Too, though.
It's way too quick.
Yeah, it's crazy. So one of my things about this was like I put that I love the guitar work on it, and I love the tempo shifts, but also kind of how you touched. Not one song on this feels like the previous song. Like everything feels distinct and different.
It's the
is
same
really cool.
Fetus sound, but all
It's-
the songs are different.
but every song sounds different. They have a different tempo or they have a different structure. They don't follow like the same structure through everyone, which I thought was really cool. But at the same time, I feel like it gets a little repetitive.
Yeah.
And when I first listened to this, I thought this was an earlier, like from the 90s album. And I was blown
Really?
away
It
by the
sounds like
production
that.
quality on it. And I was like, wow, this is,
I don't know.
I don't know how the production did this good. And then when I went back and started doing my notes, I was like, oh, it was 2023.
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh.
You don't think this sounds more modern? I think it sounds kind of throwback.
I think it sounds throwback because you got some OGs, right, and some OG shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think recording-wise, look at Dying Fetus maybe 3 albums before this. The production wasn't that good.
Well,
That's
no,
true.
I think that was the charm, and I think that's what made Dying Fetus like so
Like War of
rad.
Attrition, the production's meh.
well, and that's
Yeah,
what
I
threw
mean,
me off
So
on
it's
it.
fine.
Because the production was so good, but
This sounds awesome.
but it sounded so throwback, like retro
I think
in
this
the
is-
structures and the way all the songs are done.
I think the production, especially within death metal, sometimes when it gets too good, it starts to all kind of sound the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it sounds like that band, but the songs lose character because it can get pretty
Choppy.
yeah, like say the drums, they're relentless. It's pretty relentless. So
Yeah,
when you hear relentless, just easily,
Well, but you also
it's
kind
not
of,
relentless. It's
but you
just
also
like,
kind of rely on that bleed over from the shitty recording, where when it's like very distinct, like
You
chops in the snare hits and shit.
you miss the meat and
It
potatoes.
gets
So
yeah.
the blast beats kind of mellow out because the dude can't actually play, so it kind of like chills it up.
Yeah.
And this is just like ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
whole- yeah, I get it, dude.
And so it's
I
kind of
like the clarity in it.
I do like the clarity, and that was one of my first things. I was like, holy shit, for a 90s album, this is recorded great. But then I found out it wasn't a 90s album, and I was like, oh, it's still Dying Fetus doing Dying Fetus.
Feast of Ashes, dude. The third track. Like there's this outro part, like the last minute or whatever, 2 minutes of the song.
Mm-hmm.
He does this like drum fill, like this drum part, and I listen to it over and over again, and you can hear all the notes he's playing. He's like nails the hi-hat twice.
Yeah.
It's sick as fuck. I
the
love
playing is incredible.
Yeah, it's so good, dude. But I guess one of my beefs is kind of like what you're saying, like it does kind of get repetitive. And what I find out, and this is true of all Dying Fetus albums, is like I love how it sounds, but I'm just kind of waiting for the hooky parts to show up.
Yeah, you're
Then
waiting
I'm like,
for those.
that's the part that I love, and then I'm like, okay, on to the next song.
Yeah.
And then like, but
I get that.
it has good payoff because usually the hooks are like buried later
But
in
the build-up kind of takes too long to get to that point.
Well, it's just like it's kind of boring
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. Like it's sick. It's just like fast.
It's nothing new. It's
Yeah,
nothing new
exactly.
from Dying Fetus, and that's kind of my beef. It's like you kind of want them to like, okay, you're Dying Fetus. You are capable of like giving us a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, yeah.
We know you can.
Like, go somewhere where you're not comfortable.
100%.
Yeah.
This is their formula, which is still good, and there's sick riffs on this.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes you got to up your game. Like we've talked about other death metal acts on here, to where like the longevity. They're long. They've been around for so long, and like they kind of die out. But every once in a while, they'll come out with a banger, dude. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I feel like.
I feel like they're
This
kind of
band kind
overdue.
of needs.
They're kind of
because
overdue for it.
Wrong One to Fuck With was all right.
They're all just all right.
I don't think so. I think there was some, but I don't think you're gonna get any more like early Dying Fetus feel. I really don't, because of the production. And
Well, they
because
just
of the
need to take a
recording and
risk,
because
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what is a risk for them?
Well, remember early
Like,
stuff.
what do you want them to do? Like,
Well, think about early Dying Fetus when they had like Bathed in Entrails, that EP they did.
oh fuck yeah.
And they had like kind of more epic songs with like bigger buildups and like, you know what I mean? They were like kind of more like Seasons in the Abyss, in as opposed to just like real tight. Like I feel like they're constantly like cutting the fat and getting their stuff as like technical and as tight as possible. But I'd like to see it like open
now
up.
they're just modern day pork. where
Like what
there's,
Cattle Decapitation did, they started just like delving into this melodic
They
shit.
packaged it into a Denny's fucking dinner. It used to be a fucking
It was a
mom and
meal.
pop fucking place.
You know,
Yeah.
some of the
with
side
gravy
dishes were
on
bad.
top
Yeah.
of it, and now it's a fucking.
Now
It
it's
might
just
as well be a TV dinner.
Now it's just a corporate structure that they follow. And
It's
they're
a
just
hungry man.
Yeah.
Good.
Excuse the metaphor. We're recording this the day after Thanksgiving. Like and subscribe.
We might still be turkey drunk.
We're a little turkey drunk.
Yeah. My big thing is like you could take this album and aside from the production quality, like the songwriting and the song structures and stuff, and it matches everything that they've done since the early 90s. There's nothing out here that's gonna, be something surprising from Dying Fetus. It's a good album. I was surprised at how much I actually liked it. But I just feel like Nathan said, they need to take a risk. They need to throw something out there and see what happens. Like,
I think that, Dying Fetus just has such an impact with some of those early records on bands that are like newer bands.
Mhm.
Like bands like Frozen Soul, which is
Same with Sugo Bog, yeah.
like the influence is there, obviously,
for sure.
right? Like this band is. It's just obvious that Dying Fetus has influenced some of these bands with a more hardcore influence. They made it seem a little cooler with the breakdowns and stuff and the slam and shit. I think that they definitely have a name in death metal and in extreme metal, and they should always be there. And as long as they come out with records, I think that's a good thing. But I think they are running a little stale with me in the last releases. So I give this a 3.7. I think it's good. I like three tracks off this. I'm gonna go back to, like you said, like Throw 'Em in the Van. I don't know if you were making fun of that or not, but earlier
I love Throw 'Em in the Van.
Yeah, I do that like song riffs. I love it. Like, so there's a lot of good stuff here, but it's just I'm not entertained, the whole time. So 3.7.
I mean, that's pretty good. I'm kind of with you. I originally put this as a 3.5, but then I dropped it to a 3.2 once I found out it was a 2023 album.
Fair. That's fair.
I feel like it's a great album, but the fact that like it hasn't progressed or changed any kind of made it to me. I'm like, I was like, where's the risk? Where's the coming out? I mean, I get it. They're stable and they're great, and they always put out, like Nathan said, they always put out something good. But I'd just like to see them take a risk and try something new.
I think sometimes
Even if they do an EP with a couple songs, it's just
Some of their EPs are earlier tight.
yeah.
I
and
think
that's what I'm saying.
sometimes these guys also get really into like just getting better at their craft.
Yeah.
And sometimes that doesn't necessarily make for better songs.
I agree.
And I think like
these
you
guys,
said,
like, you're probably the best playing they've ever been.
Well,
It
their
doesn't
life is
necessarily-
probably stable more than it's ever been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The band's on a cycle.
well,
Like
and I think kind of like how Nathan said earlier when he was touching about they just keep trimming the fat until they get super lean. Now it's just like there's nothing to season the. It's like it's so lean now that it's just like
it's like
there's
eating
no
a
heart.
rabbit.
Yeah.
I give it a 4.2 out of 5.
Fuck, okay.
Damn.
I agree with everything you guys are saying. This is like the same shit over and over from
Yeah.
Dying Fetus, but it's Dying Fetus. What, we gonna hate on that? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
I love
will.
this band. I
Not
listen to the
hating.
shit out of this. This is an easy one to put on.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna rip. It has like a handful of like standout moments, but it's not doing anything that's blowing me away. This is nothing new kind of here. It's just they keep polishing the same piece of work. And I just hope they experiment a little more with their sound.
You see this, boys and girls? This is being a fucking fan. You stand by the fucking band.
Fanboy.
Saint Anger.
I love you, motherfuckers. We are Blenderstyle, and that was Dying Fetus. Make them beg for death.
We beg for the death of this show every day.